Lord, yeah. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's music to our ears to hear you say that. Yes.
Oops, what happened here? My computer's been weird. Every once in a while, my screen gets real small, and then I have to bring it back up. Anyway, so the part I'm supposed to read is just the part in bold print, right? When you
All
said
right.
read a reading.
Oh, we sent you a reading there from Joyce Kramer.
Oh,
In
so it is okay. So it
the
is the
one.
have you played game. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Starts off with the
Okay.
affirmation: I am successful, I am confident, I
Right.
am healthy, I
Yeah.
am loving,
Yeah.
I am kind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we are. Yeah, all right.
That's
So that's
great.
the
So
day.
when do I do that? When I come
We
on or at the beginning?
Well, we usually just, it kind of happens organically. You might come on
Okay.
and be all excited to share something, or
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
if you're not feeling kicked in yet, you can go, "Hey, I'll do the reading now." It all works out pretty much
Yeah.
organically.
That's how I do things too. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, you got it.
My lipstick's too dark, but I can take care of that when I'm
Yes.
off camera.
Yeah, when you're off camera.
This is good.
Yeah. Let's see here. We're almost ready to rock. I'm just putting it up on the what's it called? Facebook and such so people can access it there.
All right, you
Um,
could mute now and
Mute and
yep,
disappear.
and make your camera go dark. There we go. All right, we will see Joan in a little
right,
bit.
yes. We got Sue Hodgson live from Canada.
Wow.
With us right now as well.
Does Hodgson, how do you say it?
Yeah, Sue Hodgson.
How do you say it?
Hodgson?
It's not Hodgkins?
No. I think that's like a pork rind brand. The Hodgkins.
I thought she might know Estero because Estero is a big singer in Canada.
Yeah, right. Well, she can let us know in the chat.
Okay.
Shall we begin?
Yeah, are you ready? Welcome to The Funniest Thing.
Yes.
Where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, it does.
I'm Darrell.
I'm Ed.
And we're broadcasting live from middle school studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
Oh, what a beautiful day it is, man.
I know. Just last Thursday, the Saints came marching in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this show, The Magic of Thinking Big with Joan Steadman, is going to be a great show for all of us. I mean, every show is great. We practice this because there's a lot of ways you can get oofed by things that you're not expecting to see, or, you step into things, and thinking big is actually a way of staying above all of these things and staying in tune with our purpose and staying in tune with a joyful day and being a blessing. So today's show is called...
Wait.
Go ahead.
We forgot to mention that the title is actually inspired by Joan Steadman's current workshop she's been teaching.
Yes.
And we'll get into that when she comes on, because we were wondering who our next guest was going to be.
Yep.
And Glenn, a fan, and also he's been on the show.
Yep.
Glenn Brewster.
Yep.
Was attended the Patreon Tuesday night prosperity lesson.
Yes.
And he asked if we'd be interested in having Joan Steadman on, and he told us about the class.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, I have that book right here.
Yes.
So instead of making it difficult, Ed and I were like, well, wait, let's just have Joan.
Yeah.
Let's just make it, go with the simple route. Why make it difficult?
Right.
And just stick with the magic of thinking big.
That's right. There's a book by David J. Schwartz, which is what you're referring to, and Glenn was referring to, by the same title. So today's show is called The Magic of Thinking Big with Joan Steadman. You have to think, so you might as well think big. Remember that covenant in which, if we fill our minds with good and expect only good, then only good will come to us. Trust in your own untried capacity. Don't follow trends, start trends. I love that. Reach out and open the door that no one thought could be opened. On this episode, Darrell and Ed encourage listeners to think big and step out of their stagnant zone. Action builds confidence and eliminates fear. Once you decide, God makes a way. Once you decide, God makes a way.
Yep.
Our power of decision, man, that's a very important part of this. And during the second segment, Big Thinking, Joan Steadman champions our big dreams with today's reading. Thinking big is honoring God.
Yeah, thinking big is honoring God. Remember when you used to think thinking small, being humble?
Oh, you're not kidding.
No, that's the wrong definition of humble.
Jesus used to smack that right out of the people's mouths.
Yeah, because as soon as someone said that to me, he'd say, wait, do you want to be made well?
Yes.
What, but I don't know.
Hey,
That seems blasphemous. Let me ask you again. Do you want to be made well?
Yes.
And finally, they would agree, and things would change.
He would look at his watch. I'm going to ask you one more time. And then, so thinking the magic of thinking big. And we have great readings. I used this on a meeting. I had amazing transformation this week. I also learned something about not letting people get under my skin so that I stop thinking big and start thinking small. But what do you want to start with? You want to start with the reading from the Science of Mind?
Well, we have a bunch of good readings.
Yeah.
Actually, I just want to let people know
Yeah.
that a lot of this description were either lines that I read in The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. Now, this book was written, I believe, in the 50s, and it's still published today. You could still get it.
Yes.
We recommend it. You could also get the app Libby, which is Libby. Mm-hmm. We highly recommend this. It costs nothing, and what it does is you put in your local library card number,
Right.
and you have access to all the audiobooks at your library. And because this book has been so popular for so long, I'm just going to assume all libraries carry it because I had no problem getting it on my Libby app. And it's worth having. It's just another one of those things to have in your arsenal when you're driving in traffic to keep your mind thinking big.
Yeah.
Instead of getting annoyed that you're running late or it's taking too long. This starts giving you positive, creative, big ideas to dwell upon. So that's what I've been doing. So a lot of these lines in the description, if you have the book, you'll go, wait a minute. This sounds like that episode from Darrell and Ed. Well, we're admitting, yes, a lot of the lines in this description came from that book. And some of them are quotes. The one quote I really like about thinking big is the one that's about trust in your own untried capacity.
Ah, yes. That really stood out to me as well. I was wondering about that.
It's from Ella Wheeler Wilcox, who is a New Thought teacher. And
I don't think we've ever read from her before, have we? Do you have a book?
I don't know if we have. For some reason, I think we did.
I'm going to look that up.
I hope I'm getting it right. I know that's
okay.
I know that's who said this quote.
Okay.
But check out Ella Wheeler Wilcox. So trust in your own untried capacity. That is a great psychological and spiritual promise. Every time I step out with the faith to try something new, I am always thrilled by the discovery of ability that up until that point, I had no idea I had. But to get there, it's sometimes difficult because it's easy to think, oh, I don't know, I've never done this before. But that's when I use another quote of mine on myself is make bad art, meaning take any of the idea that it has to live up to some sort of preconceived idea of perfectionism that you have in your own mind, and also throw out the window all fear of other people's opinion.
Yeah.
because I have to use this on myself. And I also let myself, another key one that we talked about a lot on the episode with Estero, You Are Always Gifted, is letting go of the fear of other people's opinion and just trying to do whatever feels the easiest way for you to do it. That's hard for a lot of us to do because we tend to think that if it's not difficult, then somehow it's not legitimate or it's not good. Well, we're throwing that out the window, folks, because I believe now 100% from my personal experience that the easiest way, the thing that comes to me the easiest way for me to do something creative is my own unique way of expressing God through me. Not trying to think what it ought to be, because then I'm comparing it to what I've previously seen and told myself is a certain standard.
Right.
But every great artist and every great trend in art or music was started by an artist or a musician or an author. Any great invention, they were willing to just do it in their own unique way, the way that came easiest for them, that seemed like a fun, exciting idea. And then instead of making hard work out of it, they just did it in the easiest way with what they had available to them in that moment. And it creates a whole new trend in art or a whole new style of music, a genre of music,
Yes.
or they revolutionize history with an invention, like the telephone, like the airplane.
Yes.
I mean, it was bicycle. Two young men who owned a bicycle shop,
Right.
and they just pieced this thing together, just out of joy. I mean, they weren't. The engineers were saying it couldn't be done, but these two bicycle shop brothers, owners of a bicycle shop, were so excited about the idea. They did it with the tools and the things they had from their bicycle shop, and they've revolutionized the world. So we're saying, let it be easy. Let it be easy. Have a big thing. The key to initiative when you're thinking big is, and I'm going to read it right now, is taking the small step. This is from, the next easiest indicated action for you. Because the tendency when we start thinking the other way is, oh, I'm not ready yet. I got to get X, Y, and Z first. Or I'm not old enough yet, right? Or I should go take a class on this first. Well, there's nothing wrong if that's an indicated action, but and I know for myself, when I'm using it as an excuse from fear, not faith. If it's an enthusiastic idea, that's the one. So this is from an old issue of A Guide for Spiritual Living from Science of Mind. This is their monthly morning reader, and you could order this online. You could subscribe. I just now subscribed to it. I had these old ones laying around, and I pull them out every once in a while, and they're always so good. So I decided to finally subscribe. So this is from 2013, March 2013. All right, it's called Actualizing Your Dreams. So we're saying you have a big idea that you're excited about. Well, how do we make it happen? And here's a little quote from Helen Keller. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. That's pretty impressive. And then she goes on to nail it, to drive it home. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. You live in a universe that is alive, creative, and ready to fulfill your dream. Take a deep breath, know you are worthy of your success, and consider taking these next steps. 1, pray. And remember, we like Ed and Darrell like the definition of prayer as positively conditioning your mind. If your style of prayer is not positively conditioning your mind, well, Reverend Ike will say, then that ain't prayer. So pray. And here's a great affirmation. This is all from this little booklet. And if you want to know what day it is, it's March 3rd, 2013. Step 1, pray. The God of your understanding planted that dream in your imagination. That means it stands ready to co-create with you, bringing it to fruition. When we take a step, that stepping stone appears. You know what I mean? Yes. The bridge starts to appear as we take the step. Step 2, visualize. What does it look like? Where are you? Are others with you? What are you doing? Get excited about what your big idea is all about instead of dismissing it. 3, feel it. Flood your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and every cell in your body with the feelings of living your dream. Now, that's what Jesus said when, believe you have already received and you shall have it. So start imagining what it would like if that was already the truth.
Yes.
4, take action. And here's the key, folks. Take one tiny baby step toward making that dream a reality. Remember, when we set the bar low, we set ourselves up for success. Yes. Some success coaches will tell you, that you got to big, you got to, what do they call it? Drastic action.
Right.
Well, yeah, you might be able to do that for a couple days,
right.
But then you're going to go, oh, what's the use? I'll tell you what, if you eat apples 1 bite a day, you're going to eat a bushel of apples within a few months. But if you try to eat a bushel of apples
right.
in a few days, you're going to give up and probably never eat an apple for the rest of your life.
So true.
So take one tiny baby step toward making that dream a reality. And here, 3, praise yourself. Fill yourself with good for me for having the courage to take each tiny little step, no matter how big or small. And here it is. You were not meant to play small. You are meant to live a life that is gloriously happy. All you need to do is your part. And remember, our part's a tiny part because the universe will take care of everything behind the scenes. And here it is. Here's the affirmation. I am worthy of living the life of my dreams. With faith, today I take one tiny step forward. Good for me.
That's awesome. Wow. That is great. That a lot of the things that you were saying tie into what I had made some notes earlier. One of them was about, so I had this like itchy patch of skin on my back. It was coming up, and it just, first I thought it was just dry skin, but it just kept coming. So I looked, it got irritated, right? Like just this weird little thing. And I had gotten out the Louise Hay You Can Heal Your Life book.
Yes.
And it has all those affirmations in the back. And I had actually gotten that out for my son for something, which ended up blessing him. But I read something related to like a skin condition, and she tells you kind of like what it, and she got those from Ernest Holmes and they're these mental equivalents.
Yeah, the mental equivalents.
And so she talks about how that type of skin condition can come from letting people get under your skin, letting people get under my skin, and that like hit. When you read a good affirmation or a healing thing, and you often read these mental the equivalent. When you find the right one, it really like, oh my God. It's like a weight off my shoulders, like, oh, yes, that's exactly right. So I felt that, right? So I started just relaxing and thinking about that. And suddenly it meant a lot more to me. I realized, because this is something that, as sort of a sensitive, I guess what you'd call an empathetic kind of a person in the past, I would let a lot of people under my skin. I feel like I'm carrying around their ideas, their voices, this and that, and this ties into what in the description, one line that popped out for me was, don't follow trends, start trends. Because if you're going to live this way, you're going to have to learn to start new trends of thought within ourselves. That is the saving grace of new thought and affirmative thinking, is that we can actually choose thoughts that take us in the direction that we want to go, rather than being at the mercy of my subconscious mind and the patterning from the past. In this moment, I can start choosing new thoughts. So I realized, that's huge for me, letting people get, and then letting people under my skin. And I realized when I was meditating, the really only one under my skin is me and God. Like, I thought about it in a way I had never thought about, like, under my skin. Of course, I'm the only one under there. God is the only one under there. And I've started using that. That's my divine nature. That's what's under my skin. If I'm thinking otherwise, or if I'm letting my imagination imagine other people's thoughts, it's a misuse of my own imagination and in my will. And so I had a meeting coming up, and it was setting off all of this, like letting people under my skin in this way, which is whenever I'm thinking what other people are thinking about me, in a sense, I've let them under my skin. Or I'm thinking about what they might think of something I do or anything. If it's not my voice, if it's not the voice of that divine within me, I've effectively let someone else under my skin. So I was practicing that, and during my morning routine, because we do live this stuff, I wrote down that morning, because I was like, this is an opportunity for me to not be lazy in my thinking. My mind was pounding me with these old thoughts of self-criticism and how the meeting's how it's not going to go well, or whatever, all these thoughts, right? And I was starting to see Darrell's been talking about this lately. I was casting everyone else in these terrible roles. So when I would approach people about the information I needed, because I kind of organize the meeting, I run the meeting, I'm the team leader in this case, and there's a teacher involved, there's a parent involved. So when I was looking at this, fear and this self-judgment was turning me into the beggar. I hope this goes well, because I'm coming from a place of lack. So then when I would approach the teacher, for example, because I teach the special education part, he's the teacher who sees the kid more of the day. So I benefit from collaborating with this person. I want information from him, because they have a more bird's eye view of what's going on with the kid, right? So I noticed when I approached him with that beggar energy, and I was seeing him as judging me, I wouldn't get what I wanted. Like, it was just a bad feeling. And then the parent, and mind you, I have good relationships when I'm not under that influence of that letting people under my skin and self-criticism. I love these people. I've come so far in my relations, and so I did my meditation, I brought myself back to that, I did my reading, and then I just wrote, today I bring faith to everything and everyone, including the parts of myself that are even seeking faith, because some part of me is going, well, I don't have enough faith. And then I thought to myself, what is faith? And I just wrote it out. It means joyful expectancy, joyful expectation. What would that mean in this case? It means I'm relaxed. I already feel good about myself. I'm not stressed. I know this is going to go well. I truly know this is going to go well. There is no, like Darrell and I often repeat, there is no suffering required. So I approached the day that way, and wouldn't you know, the first thing I realized, we're having one of these every other Friday. We have the parents come in and they do this little assembly. The kids do this. So of course I thought, well, maybe I'll see the parent now.
Yes.
But then I got asked to do something else to help some other kids and this and that. So I just went with the flow. And wouldn't you know, that flow, by letting go of my plans, putting it in God's hands, going with what felt good, I ended up helping a bunch of other kids, and then ending up standing right next to the parent.
Of course.
And then I had two minds that I could have went down. One, like the beggar mind, try to get this information. Or for two, I just said, so how are you feeling about this meeting? Tell me what you think. And then she started sharing, and it was positive, actually. And then I started sharing. Because we weren't in a meeting, I could be really just frank and be myself and creative. And she's like, you sound like what you're saying makes perfect sense. So I knew we were on the same page. And then when I saw the teacher later in the day, now my mood lifted. Yes. And I approached him. I'm like, I'm not going to beg him for anything. I already know. I told myself, I already know everything I need to know. So when I saw him, I like patted on the back. We started laughing and joking. I didn't immediately, excuse me, can you know, like that. I was interacting with his class. I was helping him. And then just naturally, we started talking about and he was already on the same page that, you know what I mean? Like I didn't need anything from him anyway. And everything just flowed, and one thing flowed after the next. I had a great conversation literally with everyone on the team. The other thing is I had to get this paperwork done because all of a sudden I realized, I don't have school on Monday. The meeting's on Tuesday.
Wait, Monday's off?
Yeah, we have Lincoln. We still celebrate Washington's birthday and Lincoln's birthday.
For real?
Yes.
Holy cow, that's great.
That ought to help erase that march from your mind.
The March of Dimes?
The March of Dimes. So by shifting my expectation, I had a totally different experience, and I'm still going back and doing it. And I like what you said in that Science of Mind thing, because it's really important at the end of the day to make a note, connect the dots.
Yeah.
I started my day with a new attitude, and look what happened. I'm retraining my subconscious mind to believe that this stuff is true, and praise myself. Because the old Eddie would just, okay, thank God I survived that. Now let's get scared about something else and keep running. But no, just like slow down, look at. No suffering required. God always says now. The kingdom of heaven is available right now, not later.
And it really works.
It really works. I've been reading this book, Fear Not, Perfect, by Martha Smock. Messages of Assurance.
All these books are available online. If you go to Amazon or you go to use Abe, ABE Books is a great place to get these books used. I order them because people are done with them, so they get recycled. And I like ordering the used ones, not because I'm cheap, but it does save a lot of money. But primarily, you get to see what the other owner wrote in the margins and highlighted. And a lot of them that I've ended up getting are signed by the author.
I know that one. We just discovered that one on the air last time.
And I got a Barker, Raymond Charles Barker signed too.
Amazing. And I recommend if there's an older version of this book, an older printing, I would get it. This isn't this is kind of cheaply printed, but the words are still powerful. She says your words can change your world. And today, this is a little affirmation song she would use. I feel it would be.
Oh yeah.
I feel wonderful. I feel wonderful for this glorious day. I feel wonderful. I feel wonderful, and I'm gonna stay that way. She says these words are like a little prayer, a little affirmation of life and well-being. And singing them to myself, repeating them to myself has changed the day for me, has lifted me out of feelings of lack. Our bodies respond to our thoughts and feelings, to our words. The cells of our bodies are listening and are ready to respond to the words of faith and joy in life. Affirmations of truth are powerful reminders to us of the great potential in us for joyous, healthy, and successful living.
We should do our 3 breaths and then our things before we bring on our guests.
I got to tell you a funniest thing related to what you're saying, because it's going to lead us right into our guests, but it's a miracle. So let's take a deep breath. I feel wonderful. I feel wonderful. I'm gonna stay that way.
I feel wonderful. I feel wonderful. And I'm gonna stay that way.
I feel wonderful. I feel wonderful. And I'm gonna stay that way. Yeah. I gotta tell you, that melody was, Darrell heard me reading it and applied that melody perfectly to that song, because she doesn't tell us what melody she used. We want to thank the Patreon people, but adding the melody to it and the fun, joy. I was singing songs like this all morning. It changes everything. You got to be like a child to enter the kingdom, and the kingdom is here and it is now. Thank you to the Patreon people supporting the show.
Yeah,
super helpful. If you haven't jumped on the Patreon, there's a link in both the YouTube and the podcast app, and you can contribute $3, $5, $25 per month, but it really supports the flow of the show and will support you if you're benefiting from this.
And subscribe, because then you get notices whenever we're live.
That's right.
And whenever we have things going on.
And comment on the shows and share whatever you're learning with us. It really feeds into the show and blesses other people. If you want to send us something, funniest thing, mailbox is P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. We want to thank our chief engineer. His name's Jeff Comfort.
And each week,
he takes us right into the comfort zone. Okay. Before we go to the break, just real quick, Christine Barone. I can't believe she said this because I meant to say this earlier. She said, "Hi, guys. It's your old friend Christine from New Jersey. Did you ever tell the story of when you two first met?" Which is so coincidental because we met at Agape Spiritual Center. And Reverend Joan Steadman is one of the founding members of Agape Spiritual Center. All this is blowing my mind. Everything we've talked about, I had just talked about this with someone I saw earlier in the day, and he was asking me about our show. And I was just telling him we met because I was just starting to teach in Culver City, and Darrell was still at Time Warner, producing for the news segments and for the public access. And at noon, we would go to the noontime meditation. It was perfectly in the middle of where we both worked.
Yep.
And I would meditate, and I was in a place where I hadn't really found New Thought yet. I didn't know those names. I would come from being Catholic, and I was going through things, and I was looking for really this practical approach that I could build my life on and live and do and so we would meditate, and then I get in the hallway, and then Darrell would be there, and he's, Darrell being Darrell, he's making fun of all of the, in a joyful way, busting people's chops or whatever you want to call it, busting people's balls in the hallway. And then he's also pointing out there's some coaches, there in any spiritual community, you gotta be aware of if people are selling you a false bill of goods, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta, and so Darrell learned this, as we all know, which is a blessing, from guys who are very no nonsense and didn't pull any punches. You're either sticking to the principle or you're not. And so I would hang out. I do the meditation, and I go in the hall. And I'm talking to Darrell. We'd start eating, and it really blew my mind. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm going here and saying one thing, and then I'm meeting this guy, and he's saying another, and it's all. And eventually, Darrell and I just connected, started talking about these principles. We started meditating actually at the Nuns bookstore, which I stumbled into.
Yeah.
And Darrell's mentor is the guy Mike Dugan, we always talk about, who came up with the title for the show, because Darrell used to say,
"Funniest thing, you're not going to believe it."
Yeah. Did I miss out anything? Or do you think that covers it?
That covers it.
I know years ago we had Michael Beckwith on the show. It's such a crazy how it all is tied together. But we're so grateful that coming up next, big thinking Joan Steadman, who is a bit of a bigwig over there at Agape Spiritual Center, champions our big dreams with today's reading. Thinking big is honoring God. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, live from Middle School Studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
And Joan can unmute herself. I'm just gonna
go.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
break.
And
get there.
Soda.
Joan Steadman.
She didn't leave.
Hello.
We're just gonna take
I
our
had
little.
no idea that you'd been to Agape. That's wonderful.
Oh yeah, man. Yes. It was a big big stone on my path, and brought Darrell and I together. And
I remember those noontime meditations. They were wonderful.
Yes, I agree. Darrell was a bit of a character then. He would, if the temperature wasn't right, he would set the temperature to what was more comfortable for us. And if anyone asked, he'd go, "Ooh, Reverend Michael likes it that way." And they go, "Oh, okay."
What's so funny too, Ed, is that, so many people are like, "Well, this is the way Reverend Michael wants it." And I'm like, how do you know this?
Right. Yeah. He's so admired and adored. And I can just imagine there's people wanting to be in his good graces in this way or that way, which is understandable. Right. But he was amazing on our show. We had such a good time together. And it was fantastic.
Yeah. and I don't know if you know this, but now I'm senior minister of the first satellite of Agape International. So I'm in Agape Bay area up in Northern California.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're small. We aren't big like Agape International.
Right.
And it's very much the vibe of Agape. I love it. And we're having Reverend Michael come on April 5th.
Oh,
He's going
cool.
to do a big event every
Let's
year for us. And
let's reiterate this part when we come back from the break officially, because then that'll be on the audio podcast as well. I want to make sure we let people know.
Oh, we aren't on the podcast. I'm glad to know that.
Yeah. Hold on one second.
Yeah, there's the live video stream, which is this, but we're recording the audio version, and then and then the engineer takes out this part and us getting ready in the beginning, and he adds sound effects and this and that and cleans it up, and then that goes out to all the audio distribution for podcasts. So then that's everywhere, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, everywhere. Great. So we just want to make sure we get what you just shared on that, so then it's everywhere.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you even knew that part, of my life. That it kind of was a twist and turn. I never expected this to happen, and it did. Although we caught the vision of it a long time ago, which is something I could talk about too. The way it's just so fascinating when you catch a big vision,
Yeah.
And like you said, just take the small steps and let it happen. So easy.
Yeah.
Are you
all right,
ready?
So I'll bring us back in here for the official podcast. All right, welcome back to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. We are so pleased to have the amazing Joan Steadman on the show. I realized when we had a little chat at the break, this is the first time that we've actually met, but I realized that studying these principles, when you're true to the principles, is a lot like studying music. When you get together with other people who study the principles, there's a connection and you can kind of talk together. And I think this is good for anyone listening. When you meet like-minded people who study these principles, they are universal principles. So immediately, first of all, Joan, from the moment we saw your response, it was so sweet. We both were like, oh, that is so sweet. We knew we were going to have a good time when we got together, because we could actually feel genuine, loving words in just an email. So thank you for that, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And I felt the same way. And I love that in your email, both of the emails you sent me, it was like at the end, we love you. I love that. That's so beautiful. What if everybody ended everything with that? I love you. We love you. That's beautiful. So just thank you for having me. I love that. I was sharing at the break. I love that you met at Agape, because as you know, I was one of the founding people at Agape, and that's the kind of vision we caught. It's all about the vision that you catch, and then I like to make a distinction between the vision and visualization. That we catch a divine idea, because we are divine, each and every one of us. And for me, when I think thinking big, it's like thinking big is really just knowing who I am. It's knowing who you are.
Yeah.
It's knowing the activity that's taking place in the world, no matter what it looks like. And that's sometimes a hard one to know, but it's all divine activity, and it's all working together for good, because that universal law always responds. And we can talk more about that. I don't just want to do a monologue here.
Yeah.
We don't mind.
You might have something to ask.
Yeah, no. That if you think that's a monologue, you should listen to some of our other shows. No, but we appreciate. I mean, we've been talking this whole time, but I do love what you're saying about the distinction that we're all divine, and that the reason thinking big, why, and I think Darrell pointed this out. There's a distinction. It's not something that is hard to do. It takes practice and a desire and a willingness, but it's really our natural. For me, that's the salvation, is when I feel like, oh, this is just coming back to who I really am. Like Eric Butterworth says this a lot. Like, I'm not trying to make a new me. I'm trying to remember like who I actually am now and live from that truth. And to me, that's why thinking big feels so good.
Another way of saying give yourself permission to think big is a great quote from Paul Arden, who was a big-time madman advertising guy. And he has several books out. Paul Arden, Arden.
Great books. Even the books themselves are like, yeah, amazing.
So whatever you think the opposite is one of his books. And it's not how good you are, it's how good you could be, I believe is the other one. But he says this: don't be afraid of silly ideas. And I know exactly what he means by that. He means do not be afraid of those divine ideas that seem bigger than you think you can accomplish or are at this moment. Do not dismiss those. That is what he's saying by do not be afraid of silly ideas, because we tend to label those as silly. That's outrageous. Yeah, well, but I could never do that. No, that means you can do it.
That's why it's here, right?
Yes.
It's come because you are the one to make it happen. You know, that's why it's here in the first place. And I just keep going back. The beat of my spiritual drum is always, the message, God is who and what we are. God, and so if that's the truth, and basically that's the first practice I ever did over and over and over, because it takes reminding ourselves over and over, remembering, as you've mentioned, over and over and over, that my spirit is who I am. It's what I am. Whatever I want to name this thing called the God, it's who and what I am. And therefore, its ideas flow through me, and the more I can keep my attention on principle and uplifted, the more those ideas will make themselves known and the more receptive I'll be to them. And each and every one of us is here to live, and you've said all of this already, really, to live a unique vision, a unique life. Only we can do, only Ed, only you can be you. Darrell, only you can be you. Only I can be I. Only all of you listeners can be who you are. That just actually, it thrills me. I can feel a butterfly in my stomach when I say that, because, man, can you imagine a world? And I want to be in this imagination all the time, a world where everybody is just being who they are and doing what they love. And wow, I don't have a suspicion. I know that in that kind of a world, we would be experiencing joy all the time. We wouldn't be experiencing greed and consumerism and all that stuff, and separation, which is the root of fear and everything else. We wouldn't be experiencing all that, if we all were on that same page. Like when I go to my spiritual community on Sundays, when I go there, I'm in the company of angels, it's such a blessing, because I'm with people of like mind and heart. And does it mean we agree on everything? No, it doesn't have to, but what it means is we're all here for a divine purpose, and we're all here to transform our lives and the life of the world. And so, because again, the big thought is, as I love, then the world loves more, because we're all one. There's so much, but anyway.
Yes.
Well, this is funny, because lately I've been studying the symbolism on the back of the Great Seal of America, which is on the back of the dollar bill, if anyone's wondering what I'm talking about. The Great Seal of America, if you see the presidential seal, it's derived from the Great Seal, the eagle with the shield holding olive branch in his right talon and the arrows in his left. Well, there's a reverse side, and it's the side that you see on the back of the dollar bill, and a lot of people think it's conspiratorial and all this other nonsense, but it's actually been referred to since it was created. And I just want to tell you a little trivia. It was created the afternoon they got done signing the Declaration of Independence. They immediately began on this Great Seal to affirm that we're going to be a sovereign nation. We mean this, so we're going to make the symbol. Well, the spiritual concept that the founding fathers were resting their faith on with the idea of the United States is very similar to what you just said. And what it was they were hanging their hat on the spiritual principle that we, like you said, we all have a unique way of expressing our divinity. And if individuals are given the freedom to act responsibly, and what they meant by responsibly, to be able to respond from spirit,
Yes.
if each individual would be able to do that, then this would be an incredible society, because they were convinced that it was a benevolent force. And then if every man had the freedom, and woman, to respond to their spirit within from that spirit in their own unique way, it would contribute to an incredible society.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And of course, e pluribus unum,
Yes.
which I always think should be the other way around, but from the many one, and I always think it's from the one many, but either way.
Yeah, either way. The truth
Either
is
way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. That's beautiful. I did not know that. Thank you.
That's like the antithesis of people just trying to get under each other's skin. It's wanting to stir the you that's in your skin. Like, to me, this is the kind of teaching I love. It's like,
yes,
because lately I've wonder, like, I had one of those, why do we do this show? Darrell has, like,
I was doing that too.
Yeah, but
why do I do anything?
I listened to Olga Butterworth, and Eric Butterworth was talking, and his wife did the meditation, and something in it just like made the light bulb go on, because their intention was to stir the truth within the listeners, and something in there they stated that, and I was like, wow, what would that be like if I just take that as my intention?
Yeah.
First, to stir it up within myself, and as a result, nothing. I don't have to effort for this to happen, but it's my intention that it will help stir that same spirit and that's so different than people trying to get under each other's skin to get their way, or because as a sensitive person, that just overwhelms me, man. But when I'm inspired from within,
it inspires other people.
And so I had a silly idea, and I teach at the public school in the special education department, and I have a fifth grader who has a lot of dyslexic. I've been learning a lot about dyslexia. It's like a lot of creative people. My friend who's an adult who has dyslexia actually lives on your block. She told me, like, for her, it always felt like all the visuals, everything she sees visually is just like kind of like swirling around, and it's very difficult to like pin it down and focus it. And ever since she told me that, I started seeing my students differently. So this guy's in fifth grade, and he's just has a lot of trouble reading. But when I see him looking at the page now, I'm like, oh, he's not seeing the page the way, like, that's why it's hard for him to put the syllables in order and stuff, because his mind is just not like stabilized on it in that way. So I had a silly idea, because his mother works at the coffee shop that I go to on my way to school. I said, I had this silly idea. Two things. It's hard for him to hold two-step directions in his head, like do this and then do that. He literally starts one and then the other is the writing piece, like, was very difficult, because you can imagine if, like, it's hard for you to, your visual field isn't that stable and all that, and then the reading part. So I just saw his mom. We have a great relationship at the coffee shop, and said, why don't you have him write 3 sentences a night? And then anywhere you go, if you're at the grocery store or at home, just give him 2 directions. Tell him, do this and then do that. And just have him practice these 2 simple things. And, so it's like, what's that going to do? Well, what it did was he had a paper to write. And now this is this is genius in that it wasn't me, it was given to me and
Yes.
through me, and I shared it.
Yes.
So it is genius.
Yeah.
Because the genie, this tutelar you talk about, the spirit gave it to me, I gave it to them. So last week, because he's used to writing 3 sentences a night, he wrote 3 paragraphs, a whole page.
Wow.
Which would have been unthinkable before. And not only that, somehow so he had to present it. So his mom was like, his teacher, coming from like almost like a sympathetic or slightly pitying him, was like, oh, you don't have to do the presentation. We'll do it with me and 2 kids. And I said, no. Let's have him work on that slideshow with his parents.
Yes.
And have him do this presentation. I don't know. I just felt that. That was another thing that just came through. So we did. I texted his mom, can you guys do the slideshow? Yesterday, he presented the slideshow, and he had practiced it, and he was reading words like 3-syllable words. He was reading way more complex words than anyone thought he could possibly. Like, all of this came from this simple, silly idea.
Yes.
Was birthed out of that little momentum. And then the family feels so good. I just kept telling him, keep it going. This is working,
Yes.
And then he got the satisfaction of doing something that just a month ago would not have happened. He would have been given a hall pass and just not, which would have been fine, but he would have missed out on this joyful experience of doing that thing.
You helped him trust in his own untried capacity.
That's true. That's true.
And now he experienced that.
That's true.
So that is incredible.
That's true. And it all started because I was walking with your neighbor, who's a teacher, who's an adult. I was working with her kid because we were down one teacher, and their district paid me. I was like, jumped in and said, oh, I know this kid, I'll help out.
Yeah.
And so I did what a lot of people wouldn't do, to be quite honest. I told her, I don't know about, like, you had dyslexia, you experienced this. What is it? What do you think your son is seeing? What are the people, because there's a lot of people that experience this type of condition that they call dyslexia, but there's not a lot of actual training for teachers to address this major thing. So I just, I kind of fell on my sword, if you will, and just said, I don't know anything, tell me. Her little talk, it was like 3 minutes of hearing from someone directly, and the way I learn, I was like, oh, now I see when I see what's going on. And I swear it's like, now I'm in their universe with them, and it looks totally different than what I used to see. So that's just a small example of me. Like, I never thought I'd be a teacher, which is like, I'm not a member of anything. I've never been a good member of anything. I've always just been kind of an oddball. If I'm allowed to be my oddball in and amongst a group of people, I can hang out. But if I try to become like everyone, that doesn't work for me. But I've been embraced, and I've embraced myself, and now I have this role that I actually love, which I never thought I would. And I love seeing these miracles in these students, and it just reminds me back to myself. Well, what can I do to unlock? What mountain can move? What mountain can I move with my faith that I've been saying is unmovable? Yeah. So.
Well, see, what you did is you enlarged your vision of yourself too. You grew, the kid grew, the parents grew, everybody grew. You enlarged that vision, and you became someone different. True. And I know that part of thinking big and part of living big is that we need to not only think it, but to feel it. Because now they're discovering so much that it's feeling and thinking. Yeah. And Greg Braden has a whole great book on prayer about that. A secret mode of the lost, I don't remember the name of it. Anyway, it's about prayer. It's this great little book, and I've used it a million times. And do you think I can remember the name? Anyway, it's a long name. But yeah, we become different. That's, and then I think that universal law of life that's so wonderful, it loves us so much, it just always says yes, no matter what. It can't decide, oh, that's a silly idea. It couldn't decide for Ed, oh, that's a silly idea. That's never going to work. I'm not going to act on that. No, it's like, oh, look at this idea. He's acting on it. He's feeling something about it. And now I'm going to bring it to fruition. I'm personalizing this, but but it's this universal law that has no opinion about anything, and we get to use it We get to personalize spirit and then use this law that just always says yes. And I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, it's
Yeah.
and we can feel into that. We can feel into, yeah. And it's all about, am I catching a vision? And then I think visualization comes in really strongly too, because some people, a lot of people say, well, okay, I want to be more prosperous. I know I have to affirm that. I can't want it because I'm putting something out that I don't have, and blah 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 blah. You know. So where was I going with that? Oh dang! I'm losing it. Anyway, this law acts upon it. It can't decide. Oh, I know where I was going. It can't decide. Oh, but you know, you aren't the right color. You haven't had the right kind of education. You know, you came from a bad family background. You can't have, it doesn't decide any of this. It just
Right.
goes, you think it, you feel it, you got it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
make up that garbage.
Right.
Make it up.
The
We make it
human,
up.
yeah, the down here vibration,
Yeah.
the lower
Yeah.
vibration comes up with that stuff. Either we heard it or we saw it or we watched or we did what Ed and I like to say, don't do research. You know, don't dig into, just
Yeah.
listen to that inspired or silly or big idea, whatever you want to call it, and know that you got that idea because you're the one who has the ability, even though you think it's not there right now. You got to trust in, I love that quote, trust in your untried capacity.
Yeah.
And
I can't
that's
tell
where
you.
the thrill comes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I can't tell you how many things in my life I have done that I never thought I could do. You know, just even just little things. When I was teaching elementary school, I was in the convent for 9 years, you know, and I was teaching. I was a nun who taught. And you know, they assigned me to do all kinds of things. They assigned me to teach the girls' basketball team. I did not know how to play basketball, but somehow, I mean, it wasn't a great, we didn't win a lot of games, but you know, we made it through, you know, and also they always used to have me lead the kids' choirs. That was a little bit easier, but you know, just all kinds of things. And
Yeah.
it goes back. I was so blessed to have a grandmother, my Nana, my maternal grandmother, when I was 5 or 6 years old. I'll never forget it. We were at in those days they had watermelon stands and everything all over the place. I'm dating myself. We were at a stand picking up a watermelon, and she just looked at me and she said, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Wow.
And nobody had ever told me that before. And that's the one thing that I remember out of all my childhood. You
Yeah.
know, I was the oldest of seven, and you know, it was interesting. And, you know, it was a great childhood, but it was also interesting in many ways. And that grandmother, and she was a dynamo, and she was a woman of faith, as was my mother. But yeah, when she told me that, I knew that it was true because I saw her doing it. You know,
Yeah.
I saw her participating in life,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's beautiful. So
That's awesome.
I'm thinking, are we almost finished? Because I'm thinking about reading the reading.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
perfect. You read our minds.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you were reading. You were reading our minds.
Yes. Yes.
And before that, I just want to say, you know, one of the things that occurred to me as I was thinking about this morning, not really thinking, but being with it,
Right.
is that, you know, people say, well, this is just the way I am. I would like us to start saying, this is just the way I was.
Oh, I love that.
Now I'm on a new trajectory. It's
Yeah.
not the way it's the way I was, because it's the memories and the
Yes.
past that hold us back.
Yes.
You know?
You saying that was the one thing I was gonna say before you read as well, which is you said something about just basically our sense of self and our how we think of ourselves is so important because my subconscious mind will create a whole universe in which I am this thing, this limited person, or I'm learning now, like, Ed, you're the only one thinking that. Just don't go out and preach that as who you are and no one else is thinking. It's so like, sometimes it's so tempting to
Oh,
share
yeah.
that story, but no one else is thinking it, Ed. Just let it go. See what happens if you don't act on that in any way. And that comes from
Yes.
knowing this principle that we are limitless beings, and that I like what you were talking about earlier. Anyone who's willing to be receptive to divine ideas, they will flow through. And that's why I like working with this population I work with, whether it's like a kid with Down syndrome or autism, or, I mean, they're just like highlighted examples for me. They're not, I just look at them as people. I want to be first and foremost, like, I don't hang out with them because I pity anyone or anything. Like, they're just people. Darrell and I always experience this. Like, we have friends who are adults with Down syndrome, and if they're the people that are kind of taking care of them around, they might think that we're like patronizing them or something. Like, they don't realize, no, we're friends with these people. Like, that's why we're talking about that with, like we talked about. So, but the key is receptivity is everything. And just whatever it takes to get into a place of receptivity and let go. A lot of it is letting go of that false sense of self that I was clinging to with feeling in the past. I love what you said. It's not, what did you say? I was. That's who I was.
Yeah.
Not that's who I am.
Well, I like
That's
that.
who I thought I was.
Well,
Even.
you made me think,
Right. Right.
Joan, you made me think of
Oh, that's just
giving myself the idea of, like, we got to stretch our belief of ourselves. You can stretch your belief of
pizza dough.
yourself. Yeah, like pizza dough. Stretch it out. Because it's true. We tend to just think it's this little tiny blob and that's it.
Spin the pizza.
You can stretch your idea. Say that to yourself. I'm stretching my idea of myself.
I love that too. That's just who I thought I was.
Yeah.
Like if someone says, "Oh, don't worry, that's just who I thought I was." I'm over that.
You know how people will say, well, I can't do, this is just the way I am. I'm not a blah, 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 blah. I can't do blah, blah, blah. It's just the way I am. No, it's just the way you were.
Yes.
Get to change that, we get to
100%.
more than change it, but transform it.
Yeah. Because it wasn't even accurate then.
No.
That's the thing. It wasn't an accurate depiction then, and it's not accurate now.
And if we all really, if everybody were living from that place of I'm unique, I have a gift to give, and my gifts are precious. If we all were living from that place, then we would also not get into competition and jealousy and envy. It'd be like, oh, I'm so happy for you. Yeah. Because when I see you give your gifts, it just empowers me to give mine more fully.
Right.
Right.
Yes. And it feels good in the moment when we're doing it.
Yes.
It's so fulfilling when I'm doing it.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, shall I read the reading?
Yeah.
And it's from the book. Is it from the book, The Magic of Thinking Big?
No, this one's from an author, Joyce Kramer. She was a
Unity teacher.
Old school Unity teacher.
Oh, okay, got it. All righty. I always like to give, kudos. Okay, we begin with an affirmation. And I'm going to pause for just a second after each sentence so that you can say it after me, those of you who are participating here. I am successful. I am confident. I am healthy. I am loving. I am kind. I am a child of God. I am a winner in the game of life. Have you played the if game lately? It goes like this. If I had $1 million, I would help this good cause. If I had the extra time, I would develop my God-given talent. If people didn't upset me, I would control my temper. If I didn't have a family to support, I would seek the kind of work I really feel fitted to do. If people would speak first, I would gladly talk to them. The if game has no winner. It is strictly a losing game, as those who play it often will eventually find out. Those who are successful in the art of living have made progress in spite of conditions. Whenever we hear of one who contributes to the good of others while in dire circumstances himself, we are apt to think that this is a miracle. But miracles are natural to the children of God, aren't they? Many people in the world have Many people the world has called disabled have brought forth so-called miracles through their faith and courage. They never stopped along the way to play the if game. You too can drop your long list of excuses and play the I am game instead. The rules state that we must believe these proclamations of truth. I am successful. I am confident. I am healthy. I am loving. I am kind. I am a child of God. Now is the time to become a winner in all areas of living. Discard excuses and embrace the true game of life. With God's help, you can do it. Jesus replied with this story. A man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servant to tell the guests, "Come, the banquet is ready." But they all began making excuses. From Luke 14:16 to 17. Yeah, interesting. I never thought of it this way before, but they all made excuses. They didn't come, but the man still had the banquet. The
Yeah.
man didn't. Only there were people here.
Right.
Yeah, and
He
you
still
know,
had the.
in one of these books that's similar to The Power of Thinking Big, I can't recall which because I read so many. It says if you get that silly idea, that big idea, and if you keep going, no, I'm not ready, you know what? The universe just finds someone else to give it to. Because
Yes.
it needs to be expressed. It's
Yeah.
waiting to be expressed.
That's right.
So
Yes.
it's just like the man preparing the great feast is going, hey, here you go. Here's an invitation. No, I'm not smart enough. No, I'm not talented enough.
Yeah.
No, I really don't have the time. And then later, getting resentful.
Right. Right.
There you go. Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this is amazing. Hopefully, we can get together another time and talk. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about how people can tap into that vision. Because I know you were visioning with Reverend Michael. We've talked about his process before, but maybe next time, if you'd be willing to come back together, we could talk a little bit more about that. Because that sounds like amazing too. Just how that came to be birthed and how other people can birth their own visions.
Yeah. And visioning, it's a spiritual practice and it's a way of life. We vision every month for our spiritual community, and the various ministries within it vision to just open ourselves, open our hearts, and receive the divine idea that wants to come forth and happen.
Yeah.
And then part of
Yeah, go ahead.
and then part of the vision is now how am I going to embody this?
Yeah.
How can I be this?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
But the saving grace in that is that these ideas are within us. We don't have to work extra hard to make them. Well, that's why, like this morning, I was a bit tired, whatever. I was a little stressed about this or that, and instead of like my nervous system was going into that, like how am I gonna get ready? Blah blah blah. I put on I have a note on my phone with some affirmations that I wrote. I have it speak it to me. I laid back in my chair, let my mind go, let those affirmations kind of prime my mind so that those big ideas, they're there. Just don't worry. Have faith.
Yes.
Have some patience. They will flow through. They're in all of us, period. That's the name of the game. They're available to all of us.
Well, you know what I do a lot in the morning? I write my affirmation, and this is like one I write often. Thank you, God, for inspiring me, guiding me, and motivating me. And I don't even say what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then throughout my day, I'm inspired, I'm guided, and then my subconscious motivates. That means take the little step.
Yeah. Yes. Do you have a good affirmation you like to use, Joan, that you could leave us with?
Oh gosh, not my affirmations.
Okay, for next time. Yeah.
My affirmation. It depends. But every morning I wake up and just it rolls out of me as God is my life, my mind, my heart, my soul, my whole being. and
That's
that
great.
sets me up.
That's it.
And I
That's a
give
good one.
And then I say, I give thanks for this day and for all of the blessings that I know are present today.
Nice.
And then I make the intention to be a blessing myself, to be
Yeah.
of service wherever I go. So
Beautiful.
yeah, that's kind of my
I
first
love
thing in
that.
the morning.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then
mine when
meditation.
from Emma Curtis Hopkins, when I put my feet on the ground, for some reason lately, it's just only the good is real. That's the one that I keep using to power wash my mind while I'm making my way to the chair to meditate and such. It's just only the good is real because I'm hearing all this other stuff. Yeah, only the good is real. I'll believe it soon enough. For now, I'm just gonna say it because yeah. All right. Well, that is wonderful. Also, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
I
No,
was
go
just going to
ahead.
ask about
I
how
can-
people can get in touch with you.
go to agapebayarea.com. I'm the senior minister there, and my information's on the website.
Yes,
I used to have my own website, and it just got to be too much, so
I heard
took
that.
it down.
I love
go
that
with
about you.
these.
You think a lot like we do. I could tell.
Yeah.
It's refreshing. It is refreshing.
Yeah.
I could tell in
Passions are-
real time you're tapped into what Spirit is saying, and so sometimes you might forget this. Like, I just
Yeah.
love spending time with you, and so all of our listeners and viewers. So thank you.
So much, and thank you everybody who's watching and who will be watching. We'll put it on our newsletter and our website, and yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. You're both so much fun to be with. It's so amazing.
We're glad you had a good time. Before you leave, though, there's a couple more things quick. But by the way, the website is already in the link for the YouTube, and it will be in the link for the podcast when it comes out as well to connect with Joan at Agape by the Bay. So enjoy that. So we found this story. Oh, my God.
We found this story about you from TMZ.
So apparently Joan Steadman was going to her first day of school, looked worried. Joan's dad noticed and asked Joan.
What's wrong?
Nervous, Joan asked her father.
How long do I have to go to school for?
Her father smiled.
Until you're 18.
Joan nodded and thought about this quietly. When they got to the front gates of the school, Joan turned to her father and said,
Dad, you will remember to come get me when I'm 18, won't you?
Good.
Well, we got
That's
a great hymnal.
Let's thank everyone for being a part of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Subscribe, share the show with your friends. You can go to darrellanded.com if you want to find out things there. We're on YouTube, as you know, any podcast app.
Now I know this one. Do you know it
Yeah.
well? Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Baby, baby, let's get together. Honey, honey, me and you, and do the things, all the things that we like to do. Do a little dance, make a little love,
Get
down tonight.
Do a little dance.
make a little love,
Get down tonight. Think big, folks.
I think that sounds better when you have the bass behind it.
Yeah, baby, baby. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Joan.
Thank you.
And we're going to be in
Goodbye.
touch. We're going to get you for another episode.
Yeah, we're going to send you the links when everything's up and ready. And no, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. I meant to invite people to Agape Bay Area, but that's okay. And the Beckwith event, but I forgot.
the YouTube will hear it.
The
What's
people
that?
on YouTube just heard it because we're still going
Oh,
live,
good.
and that'll be up. And we also have
Oh,
the
good.
link to
Yeah,
Agape at the Bay, so they'll get the
Great.
message.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much. It's
You're
so
amazing.
much fun.
Oh,
You
we're
are
so
too.
glad. Okay. God
Thank
bless
you
you.